All right, so today, gotta feed the worms, our food scraps, our kitchen food scraps. So I'm gonna feed them this last container. It might not be the absolute last, but one of the last containers of food here. And I can show off. That's what happens when you eat compost. So look, we got banana. I found this half-eaten apple. It's not even like a cord. I found this just on the ground. Here's our food scraps slash flour remains. And I'm just gonna kind of leave it on this one side. But I wanna show you what's going on underneath in some of this older food. You can really hear them crawling around. So there's thousands of them in here, tens of thousands, and they're happy. And they're pretty cool. I'll see them sometimes like inside a corn cob. So they're just gonna kind of feast on this over here. Here's a look, see, pick up a corn cob and they're just like totally loving it. There might be like tens of thousands because there's like really these little tiny guys that were just born. And there's still cocoons, and the cocoons can contain like 6 to 8 worms. There's a lot of worms. So, and then on this side, hopefully not as many. And this is starting to look like more finished worm castings. And it's okay that it's a little chunky and there's still some stuff going on. But yeah, this side doesn't have as many worms because there's just not as much food going on over here. But there's actually still quite a few worms. So I got this whole bathtub full of rich worm castings, full of beneficial bacteria, full of nutrients, ready for plants, full of biological activity. And I'm going to distribute it where it's needed in the forest garden. But basically, rather than distributing the food evenly throughout this bathtub, what I'm doing is clumping it all on one side, and then usually this burlap is also covering the whole bathtub, but instead it's just going to be over here where the food is. And then normally this big screen covers the whole thing to prevent insects and animals like, small animals like squirrels, but also we have a couple dogs that like to get in here, and potentially bigger things like bears. So I still want the screen, but I want to let as much light in over here as possible so that this side, the worms don't like the light, so they're going to go over there. This side will be less wormy, and this side will be more wormy. And that's it. That's the worm farm. And this is probably one of the last times I'm going to feed the worms this season. We're entering into early fall. The forecast for the next 10 days shows mid to low 30s. And these composting worms are not going to be able to survive the winter in their bathtub home. So I'm starting to think about sort of what I'm going to do with the worms, where I'm going to put the castings, and then how I'm gonna leave this bathtub through the winter. Well, the other thing is that they shut off my water over here. So normally I go down and I rinse this off over here. And normally I can water plants if I really need to, or fill my dog's water bowl. But they've already shut off the water because freezing temperatures are coming and we don't want any lines to be burst. So the forest garden is kind of on its own. We have buckets that we can collect rainwater, and we have a pond, you know, if we need to scoop out a little bit of water for anything. But other than that, we're just going to rely on the rain and eventually the snow. So yeah, the seasons are changing, but it's still absolutely gorgeous. Today was pretty warm, kind of muggy. Some of the leaves are already turning, but things are looking really good. Got a lot of work done over here, a lot of mulching. We've got some enormous squash and pumpkins growing over here in the Hugelkultur. Kind of blown away by how well this black locust is doing after being transplanted this winter. I just kind of ripped it out of the ground too. Like, I was real rough with it, and look at it. It's like absolutely loving being in the hugel. You know, those are just like tapping into all the carbon, you know, and the nitrogen fixers on the roots are just like going nuts. Probably like they just have everything they need. So, and they're supplying it to neighboring plants. You know, these nearby plants are also receiving tons of this nitrogen, and you know, everything's going nuts over here. There's like a pumpkin the size of a medicine ball back there. It's huge. So yeah, thanks for joining me today here at the Goat Rock Forest Garden. Here's Goat Rock, looking good.